And I also know that he is a many-generation Moil, and his father was a Moil, and he was left to really take over and support the family. And Rabbi Krohn became, we all know, the great Rabbi Paysach Krohn. And I called Rabbi Krohn. I was young, I was not married, and I said, Rabbi Krohn, my neighbors, they need chizuk, they need inspiration. They lost their father. They feel like they're sinking. They don't know where to turn. They want to know that life goes on. They want to know that they could be successful. Show us someone that's been through the situation that we have. It's nice to talk the talk, but how about walk the walk? And I called Rabbi Krohn, and I said, Rabbi Krohn, is it possible to come and give chizuk, inspiration, to this family, the Mandelbaum family? And immediately Rabbi Krohn said, I'm there. Rabbi Krohn could correct me if I'm wrong. I believe that his daughter was married already to Hananya at the time in 95. So maybe it worked out to come visit for a Shabbos, but either way, Rabbi Krohn made the trip, and he sat with them, and he met with them, and gave tremendous chizuk, and they are all beautiful, wonderful families, married, with children, and maybe married children, I know for a fact to this day. So it's a tremendous honor to be able to have Rabbi Krohn speak to our community, the wonderful community of Olney, as Rabbi Milkovsky, the Mardasser, said yesterday in the video, hopefully people saw, the whole purpose of Vayichan Sham, of building up to this holiday, of Vayichan Sham Neged Ahar, Ki'ish Echad B'Lev Echad. We're one community who cares for each other. We come together, a diverse community, all different backgrounds, but we're all in this together. We are apart, but we are together. There's so many beautiful programs that Rabbi Ben Chorin and others have put together. So it is, there you are, Rabbi Ben Chorin. So good to see you. And with that, I want to introduce the great Rabbi Paysach Krohn, the great Moil. Rabbi Krohn had a bris today, actually, and the baby's name was Shimon, if you can believe it. Beautiful bris. And Rabbi Krohn is a Noah Doresh Noah Mekayim. He doesn't just talk the talk, he walks the walk in so many areas, caring about each and every Yid in Klal Yisrael. And with that, we'd like to turn the floor over to our good friend Rabbi Paysach Krohn to share words of chizuk. Thank you very much, and welcome, Rabbi Krohn.
Thank you very, very much. It's really an honor. Boy, I haven't thought of the Mandelbaums in a long, long time. And you know something? There was a little boy, Menachem Mendel, one of the boys, and I kept up with him for years. We were pen pals for many, many years afterwards. And now I'm sure that he's married and on his own. So it's nice to remember that. I didn't realize that you were involved with that, but I do remember that. It was before Hananya moved to Spring Meadow, where he lives today, but that was true. So it's really such a great honor, and I thank Rabbi Ariel Ben-Horin, for inviting me to come to speak to all of you. It's such an honor to speak in the presence of Rabbi Milikovsky, Shlita. If you remember a couple of years ago, I had the schus to be in the community. I still remember the Kiddush outside. I don't know why I remember that of all the things. I don't think I had ever been in a community where right after davening, everybody went out to the backyard there, and it was just so beautiful. The ambiance of the shul was great. And so the only community, I have wonderful memories, OSTT, of Shalom Talmud Torah, and it's very special. And I hope that the thoughts that I have prepared for all of you today will be inspirational and memorable. All of us know today, of course, is Lag Baimer. And Lag Baimer is the yahrzeit of Rab Shimon Bar Yochai. And I could not get over it, because when I was preparing for this talk, I wanted to go over the Gemara that has the whole story of Rab Shimon Bar Yochai. Now, of course, the Gemara is in Shabbos. And when I looked up and I saw, do you know what daf the whole story of Rab Shimon Bar Yochai is on? It's on Daf Lamed Gimel, Amud Beis, Lag. Like Lag Boimer. It's unbelievable. I never remembered that that's where it was. And so it's just, nothing is coincidental. But of course, the whole story is there. And we all know the story that Rab Shimon Bar Yochai and two friends were sitting and talking. And somebody had mentioned, the Goyim are wonderful, because they build bridges and highways, and it's so beneficial for us. And Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai said, hey, wait a second. They didn't build it for us. Just remember that. They built it for themselves. We happen to gain from it, but it's not like they built it for us. And there was a fellow there, Yehuda ben Gerim. And Rashi tells us that Yehuda, his father and his mother were converts. And Yehuda ben Gerim, you know, this morning I was learning this Gemara with my Rebbe, Rab David Krohn, and he said it could very well be that Yehuda ben Gerim didn't mean anything bad. He just went around and he started saying, hey, you hear what Rab Shimon bar Yochai said? That the Goyim did it for themselves, not for the Jews. And he was just trying to let people know how Rab Shimon ben Yochai viewed this situation. But eventually the government found out about it. And they went after Rab Shimon bar Yochai. So first he went to hide in the shul with his son. And then when he realized things were getting bad, he went to that cave. But I want to tell you the lesson that I think stands out for me the most in that Gemara. And the lesson I learned from my Rav, who never passed away many years ago, his name was Rabbi Yaakov Teitelbaum. He was a tremendous tzaddik and a tremendous Talmud Chacham. And I remember one time he used to have every year on Tu B'Shvat, he had a gathering in the shul. And one year he was talking about Rab Shimon bar Yochai. And he said, let's look at the Gemara at the end of the story. And we will see something fascinating and something so important that the Chassam Sofer teaches us. Now, we know that Rab Shimon bar Yochai was in the cave for 12 years. He came out and then he had to go back for another year. So now he was in the cave for 13 years. And he knew that Hashem had saved him. It was miraculous that the stream of water was there and the carob tree was there. And the Gemara says that because he realized that miracles happened to him, he felt he had to do something back to the community. Something good happens to you, be grateful. Do something good for other people. And the Gemara brings proof from Yaakov Avinu, who did the same thing. And the Gemara says that Rab Shimon bar Yochai was walking around and he saw Talmidei Chachamim and he said, listen, I want to help you guys. I want to do something. What can I do to help you? Now they realized Rab Shimon bar Yochai probably had Ruach HaKodesh. He wrote the Zohar. He wrote the Sodos HaTorah, the secrets of the Torah. So he could have done anything for them. But it's so unusual what they asked him to do. Now, if you don't remember the Gemara, you'll be surprised what they asked him to do. They said, Rebbe, you see, down there, not too far from here, there's a very, very big field. And in that field, some dead people were buried there. Now, many times if a Kohen wants to go from block A, let's say, to block B, right? Want to go from one street to the other, they usually cut across the field, but they can't because there could be some dead people that are buried in that field, and a Kohen is not allowed to walk where there are dead people. So they have to walk all the way around, and it's very burdensome for them. It's a long walk. So Rebbe, maybe you could figure out for us where exactly those people are buried, and then we will be able to tell the Kohen or the Kohanim where not to walk, and they could walk through the field or just avoid those places where the dead people are buried. And that's what Rab Shimon bar Yochai did. He was able to figure out, Baruch Kodsha, he was able to figure out with his great wisdom and his Ruach HaKodesh where those dead people were. And sure enough, the Kohanim were able to walk through the field then. They didn't have to take that cumbersome walk all the way around the whole field, and it was easier for them. So the Chassam Sofer asks a very interesting question. He says, Rab Shimon bar Yochai, the great tzaddik, the one who knew all the secrets of the Torah, the one who wrote the Zohar HaKodesh, that's what they asked him? I mean, I would have imagined that they would ask him, some secrets of the Torah or something that's very deep. This seems to be, okay, it's important. We don't want the Kohanim to have to walk around a whole area where they don't usually have to because, you want to give them the shortcut like everybody else. But why that question? And the Chassam Sofer says a wonderful answer. And he says, over here there was a suffix. A suffix means there was a doubt. And what the Gemara is trying to show us, that when you have a doubt, you have to go to your Rebbe. You have to go to the one who knows more than you, who has the Messiah of the previous generations. Now, when there's something that's black and white, it's very simple. Either it's mutter or it's usser, so you can figure that out yourself. But if there's a doubt, that's when you need the Rebbe. That's when you need the Adam Gadol. And I remember, it happens to be, I remember when I was in Olney, and after Shabbos, Rabbi Milakovsky gave me a sefer, and it was about a Rebbe that he had. I don't remember the name of the Rebbe, but he was so enamored with that sefer, with that book, because that Rebbe taught him so much. And that's why Rabbi Milakovsky is a great man, because he understands that there's such a thing as Masorah, that when you have a doubt, you go to somebody who's older, somebody who's wiser, somebody who has the Masorah from previous generations. And that's the lesson I think that we have to remember. That's the first lesson that we have to remember from the story of Rab Shimon Bar Yochai. Every decision that you have to make, if you're not sure what school to send your children, what shul to daven in, what business to go into, who to marry, any of these kind of things, you must consult with the Rav. I believe that every person should have a Rav, a Rebbe, or a Rosh Hashiva that they consult. Now, of course, as we said, those things that are simple, black and white, so that you can figure that out yourself. But something that's a doubt, something that you could see both sides to, and you need somebody that's a pikeach, a wise person, then that's what you need a Rebbe for. Now, I can tell you, I have a Rebbe, his name is Rab David Cohen. I ask him all my questions. I have the great source. I'm so fortunate. I'm able to learn with him 2 hours every week. And I've been doing this for decades. And just yesterday, I was on the phone with a Rav in England. And he asked me a question. He was in tears because he had a doubt of what to do. He didn't know how to conduct himself in a certain situation. And I said, I'll tell you what, tomorrow morning, which was this morning, I'm going to be on the phone with my Rebbe. I can't go to his house now. So we learn over the phone. I'll patch you in and you ask him the question and you'll see. He'll give you the answer and he'll be able to direct you. And that's exactly what we did. I asked Rab David the question. I asked him, would you mind if I patched in the Rav from England? And he said, no, of course not. I'll be happy to talk to him. And that's exactly what happened. And that's the first thing that we have to learn tonight. We each have to have a Rebbe. Every family has to have a Rav, a Rebbe, or Rosh Hashiva that guides them when they have a question. Now, you know, Chazal teach us, and it's written in all the Svarim, that on the day of a yahrzeit of a tzaddik, you're supposed to tell over the divrei Torah of that tzaddik. And especially if you go to the gravesite of a tzaddik, it's very important to say divrei Torah that tzaddik said. Now, some of you know that I have had the zchus to take, by now it's over 1,000 people. Since 2004, I've had the great zchus to take people, one year to Poland, other year to Lithuania, sometimes to Ukraine, different Spain, Italy, different places. I hope that one day with your kehillah, maybe we'll be able to do that. We take 20, 30, 40 people or whatever, and we go to one of these places where Yiddishkeit flourished, and it's a fascinating, fascinating tour. It's not a vacation, it's a learning experience. And every caver that we go to, whether we went to the Chavetz Chaim, or whether we went to the Ramah in Krakow, or whether we went to the Rebbe of Lezhensk, of course in Lezhensk, we always say over Divrei Torah of that Rav. So today, because it's Lag Boimer, let's do that. Let's talk about some of the Torah that the Zohar HaKadosh writes, that Rab Shimon Bar Yochai writes, and that will teach us such an important lesson in life and give us guidance. So in order to introduce what Rab Shimon Bar Yochai said, I want to tell you a great story. And then we're going to see something fabulous. There was a man, his name was Rabbi Leo Goldman, Rabbi Dr. Leo Goldman. He lived in Detroit. Very wonderful person. And he told me the story himself. He told me when he was a little boy, he was 15 years old. He lived in Vilna. And he was from the only survivors of the Vilna ghetto. The Vilna ghetto was wiped out. And most of the people were killed. But he was one of the survivors. Now, after the war in the 1940s, maybe 1945, what happened was that some of the older people who had ran away came back to Vilna. And there were no shuls there. There's certainly no Sifrei Torah. Maybe there was one or two shuls where the people would congregate on Shabbos to daven. Now, it came to the holiday of Simchas Torah. And after they davened, the men wanted to dance. They wanted to make hakafas. You know that we all dance in our shuls on Simchas Torah. It's very Levitic. But Nebuch, there were no Sifrei Torah in those shuls. So how are they going to dance? How do you dance on Simchas Torah without a Sefer Torah? Now, what happened was, Rabbi Goldman told me, he saw this happen. And later on, many, many years later, A.B. Rottenberg from Toronto, who was my pirchei, I was his pirchei leader here in Kew Gardens. He wrote a song about this story. And what happened was that Leo Goldman was in the shul, and the men were standing around. What do we do? And all of a sudden, a young couple came in with two children. And Rabbi Goldman told me that the older boy was 3 years old, the little girl was 2. And her vocal cords were not even developed because they were in hiding and they would whisper to the child. So this child hardly spoke with a regular voice, was always whispering. And when the old men saw these children, they said, oy vey, let's take the children. We'll each hold a child and we'll take turns holding the children, because every child is a lebedik, a Sefer Torah. Every child is a living Sefer Torah. And that's what they did. They danced holding the children. Now, when I heard this story, I remembered something that the Zohar HaKodesh says. And if you want to look it up, I'll tell you where you can find it. You can find it in the Dekune Zohar in Parshas Nosai. And over there, the Zohar HaKodesh tells us something that you'll know that it's true in only Silver Spring, Baltimore, Washington, D.C., wherever there are big shuls. You know what it says? Afilu Sefer Torah shebeheichol tzricha mazel. Even a Sefer Torah in the ark needs mazel. What does that mean? You come to a very big shul. Let's say you go to Ney Yisrael, right, in Baltimore, and you open up the Aron Kodesh. There are many, many, many different Sifrei Torah, right? So now, one of them has mazel. It's used every Shabbos. But then another one, maybe you use it Rosh Chodesh, another one Yom Tov. But most of them, they have no mazel. They're not used at all except for Simchas Torah. So even a Sefer Torah in the Heichal, the Zohar HaKodesh says, needs mazel. Now listen to this. You won't believe this. So it occurred to me when I heard this story from Rabbi Goldman. If the child is a lebedik Sefer Torah, is a living Sefer Torah, and the Zohar tells us that the Sefer Torah has to have mazel, you know something? Then every child has to have mazel, because he's a living Sefer Torah. So I want to tell you something that you will never, ever forget. Rabbi Yamin Kamenetsky, the brother of Rab Shmuel, told me this. I don't know where he got it from. He said, you know what the word mazel stands for? You won't believe it. Mazel, which is spelled Mem, Zayin, Lamed, stands for Mokaim, Zman, and Loshain. Mokaim means place. If you're in the right place, Zman, at the right time, and Lamed, Loshain, you say the right thing, that's mazel. You have a meeting with the CEO, you want to get a raise, right? And you're at the right place at the right time, and you say the right thing, then things are going to be wonderful. That's what mazel is all about. So if that's the case, if the Zohar HaKodesh is telling us that every Sefer Torah has to have mazel. And now we know that our children are living Sifrei Torah. Mokim, we have to be there for them. Zman, we have to spend quality time with them. And more than anything else, we have to be fortunate, Loshen, that we should say the right thing to them to inspire them. Now, of course, we are all in our own homes. And many of us are with children, some very little children. We have to have patience with them. We have to be there for them. We have to spend quality time with them. And more than anything else, we have to say the right things that are going to inspire them. Not lose ourselves. It's very easy to lose yourself. But the idea is that you have to have Mokim, Zman, and Loshen. That's mazel. That's what the Zohar HaKodesh is telling us by a Sefer Torah. And by further connection, if we say that our children are living Sifrei Torah, they also need mazel. Now, I want to tell you another thing that the Zohar says. And I think that this is so important. And I must tell you, I would never ask anybody to do anything that I don't do myself. So we are going to learn something now from the Zohar, and this is in Parshas Vayakel. And the Zohar tells us, Dover ze gezerah hi omedes lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is a decree that Hashem has. Shekol mi shemistakel v'koireh b'chol yemaisei haktoras. Anybody who reads and concentrates on the parsha of Ketores in the morning, when you're davening, I believe every person should say karbonos in the morning. I don't know what goes on in your shul, but I'm just telling you, I believe every person should say karbonos. But one thing is for sure, you cannot miss Ketores. You must say Ketores. And you know why he says? Yinotzel mikol devarim haroyim. When you say Ketores, that's like a decree from Hashem that you're going to be saved from anything evil. Sheba olam, mikol pegoim raim, from any evil decrees, mehirura, from bad thoughts, and medinra amemisa, and be saved from death. And you know something? When there was a plague many, many years ago, in the time of Rabbi Akiva Eger, a letter was sent out that for the people to be saved from the plague, they should make sure to say Ketores. Now, those people who daven Nusach Sfard say Ketores in the morning by Shachris, and they also say it by Mincha. So what I would suggest to all of you in Olney, I would suggest to everybody in the OSTT, from tomorrow on, start saying Ketores. I'm not telling you to say it twice a day, but say it once. And now the question is, what's so important about Ketores? Why is there a gzeira? That's what the Zohar HaKodesh is telling us in Parshas Vayakel. There's a gzeira that nothing bad is going to happen to a person who says Ketores every day. Why? I'll tell you what I think. You know what I think? Because if you read the Ketores, you are going to see an amazing thing. You know, there's 11 spices in the Ketores, and one of them does not smell good. It smells awful. And that's the chalbana. But still, it's included. Why is it included? And all the commentaries ask the question, why is the chalbana included in all the spices of the Ketores? You know why? Because the chalbana represents that Jew that's not on the level that we are. That represents that Jew that has gone off the derech. That Jew that's not religious. But you know something? He's our brother. She's our sister. We got to include them. And that's why the Ketores is important. That's what the Zohar HaKodesh is telling us. Include every Jew. Include your second or third cousin that's not religious. Call them. When you're able to invite them to your home, make sure that they come to your home. Whether it's Hanukkah, whether it's Purim, whether it's whatever it is. You have to learn to include those Jews that didn't have the good fortune of having the teachers you had, the mentors you had, or the parents you had. And that's when, in my siddur, I have the word chelbana underlined, because I believe that's the key to Ketores. And when you say the Ketores, think about it, that you want to be an inclusive Jew, not exclusive. Not to say, whoa, I'm a big tzaddik, I'm learning, I'm davening, I'm doing mitzvahs. Forget about those other people. No, no, no. That's not how you talk. You have to pity them, include them. And if you say the Ketores, that's what the Zohar HaKodesh, whose yahrzeit was today, that's what he's telling us. Only good things come from that. And I'll tell you, to me, that's what unity is all about. And I'm going to tell you a story in a moment, but I want to preface it with one more thing. You know, the Bnei Yissaschar asks a question. He says, why is Sphira 49 days? Where does that number come from? Why not 39? Why not 29, 59? Where does 49 come from? And you know what he says? He says, if you go in the Mishnah in Avos, in Perek Beis, Mishnah Tes, it says, Rab Yochanan ben Zakkai asked his Talmidim, what's the best midah that a Jew should have? And different Talmidim said different things. And finally, one Rabbi Elazar ben Aruch said, every Jew should have a leiv toiv, a good heart. And you know something? When the Rebbe heard that, he said, that's the right answer. Everyone needs a leiv toiv. And when you have a leiv toiv, you're going to have a good eye. You're not going to be jealous. You're going to be a good friend. And you're going to be a good neighbor. And he says, that's why we have 49 days. Leiv is B'gematria 32. Toiv is B'gematria 17. 32 and 17 is 49. And that's what we have to work on. As the rabbi mentioned in the beginning, the whole idea of getting to Shavuos is Ke'ish Echad B'leiv Echad. As we get up to Shavuos, every day we have to work that we do favors for other people, that we have that Leiv Toiv. And that's when we say Shechianu. The Bnei Yissaschar said we don't say Shechianu when we start counting Sphira. We say Shechianu when we get up there to Shavuos, because then we reach that level of being united as one. So I want to tell you a fabulous story. What does it mean when we are united as one? As Rabbi Ben Chorin mentioned before, I am a male. And I started out, my father died when I was 21. And that's when I became a male. So I've been doing it for quite a few years. Now, last week, you wouldn't believe, last week, I get a call from a fellow, and he says, Rabbi Krohn, my wife and I are on the phone. We're very sad. Maybe you can help us. I said, what's wrong? He said, well, we're married a couple of years, and we have no children. And he said, you know, we heard from great rabbis that if somebody pays for the bris of another child, then they have that merit that they will be able to have a child of their own. So he said to me, Rabbi Krohn, do you have a bris coming up that maybe we could pay for the bris? And then like this, we'll be zeicha to have our own child. Well, I was so taken by that. My heart went out to them. I said, you know, I do have a bris. It was last Tuesday morning. I said, you know, but I have to call the father first. I just can't go over to him at the bris and tell him, listen, somebody else is paying for it. It's too embarrassing. I got to get permission for that. Maybe he wants to pay for it himself. Who knows? So I said to him, okay, I'll get back to you. I called the father and I said to him, you know, there's a guy, Nebuch, has no children, and he wants to pay for a bris so that he should merit to have a child. So he said, but Rabbi Krohn, doesn't it say in the Gemara and Kedushin, and he was right, of course, that it's the mitzvah of the father to make sure that his son has a bris? He says, I don't want to give up that mitzvah. I said, I'll tell you what to do. Don't give up the mitzvah. You pay part of it. Let's say you pay $25 and let him pay the rest of the bill for the bris. You know what you have to pay the mile. And like this, he will have most of the schus of the bris, but you'll also have part of it. He says, you know, I want to call my Rebbe. And that's what we said before, because he had some doubts, you got to call a Rebbe. And the Rebbe said, that's a good idea. You should do that. You pay part of it, let him pay most of it. It should be a schus that he should have a child. Listen to this, you won't believe it. The next morning I come to the bris, and after the bris I say to the father, by the way, nobody was at the bris except the father and the mother and the other older children. They were on the other side of the house, and the grandfather was outside on the porch looking in. The father of the baby, he was the tzaddik. He held the baby during the bris. Now, I said to the father, listen, you only have to pay me $25. That's it. The rest, you know, that guy's paying, so he should be able to have a child. I'm telling you, you could cry from what he said to me. You know what he said? He said, Rabbi, it's true. I'm going to pay you $25. But I'll tell you what me and my wife decided. We decided that the rest of the money that we were going to give you, we're going to give it to charity. We're going to give it to tzedakah in the schus that that person should have a child. I could not believe it. That's a leif toiv. That's somebody that cares for another Jew. He doesn't even know who that guy is. He didn't even ask me his name. But that's not what was important to him. What was important to him was that there's a couple that's in pain and they want to have a child. And they're paying for his bris, so he's going to take the rest of the money that he would have paid and he's going to give it to charity so that they should have a baby. That is unbelievable. That's a leif toiv. And I'll tell all the children that are listening, you want to become a leif toiv, I'll tell you what to do. Call your grandparents every Friday to say good Shabbos. You know, you're young, you're vibrant, you're running around, you're doing 100 million things. And certainly you'll do it once we finish with this pandemic. But you know, grandparents are a little bit older and they're not running around the way you do. And they love you and they're proud of you. And if you make an effort to call them every Friday, that is special. That's a sign of a leif toiv. And I say to all the adults that are listening, all of you know people that are very lonely, people that have been alone for weeks on end. Call them. Ask them how they're doing. It makes them feel so special. The other week I called a Rosh Yeshiva who's semi-retired on the other side of America. I didn't learn in his yeshiva, but you know, I knew he's older. And I said to him, how you doing? Is everything okay? He was so touched, he was so moved that I called. And I'm sure you go through your contact list, you'll see there's many people that you could call and they would appreciate a call. And that's really what leif toiv is all about. So, Rabbi Ben Chorin, do I have time to say one more thing? I don't know if you're unmuted, but...
Yes, of course, of course.
Yeah, you sure? Okay. So I just want to say one more thing. One of the things that I think that every one of us should undertake to do is to learn Sefer Rus, to learn the book of Rus. It's not long, it's just a couple chapters, and we're all going to read it on Shavuos. And we've got 17 days left, right? So if we've got 17 days left, we can learn it with your spouse, learn it with your child. Whether you learn just the storyline or you learn it with a little bit more mafarshim, it's very, very beautiful. And it's very moving. And I want to tell you now what I think is one of the most moving psukim in Rus. And we are going to see a Gemara that makes a statement that is out of this world. And we'll be able to learn a very, very great lesson. We all know the story that Naomi used to be a very wealthy lady, but then her husband moved because he didn't want to give his money to the Jews that were stuck in a famine. And so he did something not nice. He moved and he went away to a different place. And unfortunately, he lost his money. And Nebuch, he became destitute. He became very poor. And eventually he died. Now, Naomi had 2 sons and they also died. But she had 2 daughters-in-law, Orpah and Rus. And she said to the children, she said to her daughter-in-laws, go, my children, go, go, go. Don't stay with me. I'm too old. There's no way I could have a child that you would marry. Go, you're young. Build your lives. And they said, no, Ma, we're staying with you. We want to be with you. And she said, no, I'm begging you. Please leave. So the pasuk tells us that Orpah, one of the daughters-in-law, Vatishak Orpah l'chamoisa. This is in the first chapter, the 14th pasuk. Perek Aleph pasuk Yudal. Vatishak Orpah l'chamoisa. Orpah kissed her mother-in-law goodbye. Rus dovkaba. Rus attached herself to her mother-in-law. She said, Mom, I'm not leaving you. Wherever you go, I go. When you die, I die. Where you die, I die. Your nation is my nation. Your God is my God. We're in it together. Mom, not leaving you. And that tremendous, tremendous loyalty that Rus had to Naomi. Orpah just kissed her mother-in-law goodbye, but Rus attached. Now, I'm going to tell you something. If you don't know this till now, you will be absolutely amazed, as I was the first time I heard it. Do you know, many of you know the story that David and Goliath were on the battlefield. Goliath was the big giant, and everybody thought for sure, Goliath is going to kill David. David was so small compared to the giant Goliath. You know where Goliath came from? You know who his great-great-grandmother was? Orpah. That's right. The one who kissed and said goodbye. And David HaMelech, you know who his great-great-grandmother was? That was Rus, the one who attached herself to the mother-in-law. Now watch this. You take a look at the Gemara in Saita, Daf Mem Beis Amud Beis, and the Gemara tells us an amazing thing. As David HaMelech and Goliath were on the battlefield, and everybody was watching, and they knew for sure that Goliath is going to annihilate the little David. So all of a sudden, a voice came from Shamayim. Imagine, a voice came from Shamayim, and listen what the voice said. Such a beautiful, poetic thing that we can learn from. It said, Omar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the voice from heaven said, Yavoyu b'nei Hanashuka, that child who's the descendant of the one who kissed, Orpah kissed, the descendant is Goliath, he should fall into the hands of the one who attached, the descendant of the one who attached. Who attached Rus? Who was the descendant? David. So now the one who kissed is going to fall into the hands of the one who attached. And sure enough, of course, we know that's what happened. Goliath fell. David was able to kill him. But when I learned this Gemara, I thought there's a very deep lesson here from what the Gemara is saying. Yavoyu b'nei Hanashuka, those who merely kiss the Torah, they kiss the Chumash, they kiss the Siddur. That's lip service. That's nothing. It's nice, yeah, sure. You come to shul, you kiss the Siddur, you kiss the Chumash, kiss the Torah. It's very, very nice. Very nice. But who are the real Jews? The real Jews are the ones who are attached. The ones who just kiss, they fall into the hands of the ones who are attached. Because the ones who attach themselves to Torah and to mitzvahs, that's what Jews are all about. Va'atem hadveikim b'Hashem Elokeichem. You should become attached to Hashem. So what does it mean? How do you become attached? And with this we'll close. Because I think that as we come towards Shavuos, and as we come towards Kabbalas HaTorah, and as we come away from the Yahrzeit of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, who sat and learned Torah for all those years with his son, and he was so attached to Hashem, and so attached to mitzvahs and to Torah. You know what it means? You have to become that personality. Every one of us is different. Every one of us has different love for different mitzvahs. And then at Tziv, Rabbi Naftali Tzvi Yehuda Berlin says every person can pick out one mitzvah if they want, and they become so attached to it that it becomes part of you. Now, I know someone, and I'm sure you know these kind of people. They are so attached to Hatzalah. There's a guy here in our neighborhood in Queens. He is so attached to Hatzalah. It's his whole life. He'll go anytime and any call, and he has a wonderful wife who supports him to do this. His business is secondary to everything that he does for Hatzalah. He has saved and helped so many children and so many adults. And throughout this coronavirus, he's right there all the time, in the ambulances, in the hospitals. It's unbelievable. All you do is mention his name, and everybody knows he's Mr. Hatzalah. And you know something? That's called attached to a mitzvah. It's inseparable. I know another fellow who's so involved in Tomchei Shabbos. Now, I'm sure you've heard of Tomchei Shabbos. I don't know if you have it in Olney, but I'm sure Rabbi Rappaport and others, could get involved and build it if it's not there. All these great people. But Tomchei Shabbos helps those people that don't have food for Shabbos. So, again, I know somebody in the neighborhood, that's his whole life. It's his whole life. Getting the packages, getting the food, making sure that the people, they have drivers to deliver the packages. on Thursday, making sure that the people are not embarrassed. Everything's so beautiful. When you mention the name Tomchei Shabbos, you mention the organization, everybody knows it's him. And then you have those people, Achnas Asorchem. Unbelievable. You mention their name, everybody knows. Anybody who comes from Eretz Yisrael, they stay in their house. Anybody who needs a place for Shabbos, the last minute you could call them. And I'll just end with this. Well, I'll end with this story, but I want to review, and then we'll end with something else. But there was a man who lived in London. I was in his house. His name was Jackie Levinson. It's unbelievable. Listen to this hysterical story. This Jackie Levinson, him and his wife, was so great in Achnas Asorchem that they set up one of their living rooms like a base medrash, because people used to come from Eretz Yisrael. They would stay there for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It's unbelievable, because they couldn't go collect during the daytime because nobody was home. So they stayed there and they ate. And, oh my goodness, I was in the kitchen. She had like institutional pots of chicken she was always cooking, and foods and soups. It was just unbelievable. Everybody knew Jackie Levinson, the biggest machnaser in Stamford Hill in London. It was unbelievable. He was attached to this mitzvah. So listen to this. One night, there's a whole group of Mashalach, and they're all sitting around the table. Nobody knows anybody, because they come from different areas. And Jackie Levinson is sitting there as well. So one guy says to the other guy, says, how long are you here? He says, oh, I'm here 5 days already. He says, how long are you here? He says, well, I'm here 3 weeks. Turns to another guy, says, how long are you here? He says, I'm here 4 weeks. Then the other guy turns to Jackie Levinson. He doesn't know that it's Jackie Levinson. This is his house. He says to him, and how long are you here? He says, I'm here 30 years. He says, boy, that's already a chutzpah. Now, of course, it's hysterical, because he owned the place. He was the one who was supporting him. But that's the point. The point is, you got to learn to become attached to a mitzvah. So let's review everything that we said, and we'll just end with a beautiful thought. Let's remember that OSTT is a great, great place to grow and steig, as we say in Yiddish. And of course, we have to learn the lessons of Rab Shimon Bar Yochai. The first lesson is, if you have any doubt, you go to the Gadol, you go to the Tzaddik. Every one of us should have a Rav, a Rebbe, or Rosh Hashiva that we ask our questions. Let's remember that our children are like little Sifrei Torah, Lebedik Sifrei Torah. Even our teenagers, they're living Sifrei Torah. And every Sefer Torah has to have mazel, mokim, zman, and lashon. Should be there for them, spend time with them, and give them the proper language and encouragement. And then, of course, let us say Ketores from now on, because Ketores is that act of unity. And just like the Bnei Yissaschar says, that's what the whole purpose of Sfira is, Leiv Tov. That's why it's 49 days. We have to develop that Leiv Tov. Let's remember that beautiful story of the guy who was ready to pay for the bris. And then the father said he's going to give the money for tzedakah. So that guy should be able to have a baby. And finally, let us learn Rus. And let us not only pay lip service to the Torah, but rather let us be attached to the Torah. That's really what it's all about. So I'll just tell you one more story of Leiv Tov, and with that we'll close. There was a great Rosh Hashiva, his name was Rabbi Mordechai Gifter. He was in Telz in Cleveland. And many years ago, he was traveling from LaGuardia, the last flight out from LaGuardia, he was traveling to Cleveland. He was traveling with his wife, with his Rebbetzin. And as they're getting on the plane, they noticed that there was a bocher, a boy from the yeshiva, that was trying to get on the flight. He didn't have a reservation, and he was traveling standby. And sure enough, there was a ticket that was available, there was a seat that was available, and he got the seat. Now, when Rav Gifter was alive many years ago, they still gave kosher meals on domestic flights. Today, you're lucky if you get a pillow. Now you'd be lucky if you get a mask, but that's it. They're not giving you anything more than that, right? So now, as they're flying to Cleveland, the stewardess comes over and gives this boy a kosher meal. So he's very honest. He says, ma'am, this can't be my meal. I didn't even have a reservation. I just got on the last minute. I didn't make reservations for this meal. She says, young man, you're very honest and you're very right. It's the rabbi's meal, but he told us to give it to you, so you should have it. He said, I'm going to eat the rabbi's meal? I can't take the rabbi's meal. He says, I'm going to go speak to him. He goes to Rav Gifter. He says, Rosh Hashiva, thank you so much but there's just no way that I could eat your kosher meal. Listen to what Rav Gifter said to him. He said, young man, I want to teach you a lesson. See, tonight I'm traveling with my wife, with the Rebbitzin. No matter how late we get to Cleveland, I'm going to get supper. But by the time this flight lands and we get to the yeshiva, by the time you get to the dormitory, the kitchen will have been closed 3 hours already. You're going to go tonight without supper. I just wanted to be sure you had supper. That's a leif toiv. And when the boy heard the story, when the boy went through that story, you know what he said? A gadol b'Torah is a gadol b'chesed. And that's what we have to be. Not only great in Torah study, as we said, be attached to the Torah. We have to be great in leif toiv. We have to be great in chesed. And so I thank all of you, Rabbi Ben Chorin, Rabbi Milkovsky, all the wonderful people of your shul. I thank you once again for inviting me. I thank all of you for listening. And Hashem should bless each and every one of us, that we should be able to fulfill our potential and bring out the best in our children and grandchildren. Thank you for listening.
You're hitting like a bat.
That's true.
Rabbi Paysach Krohn, thank you so, so much. Every time I listen to you, it's a tremendous treat. It's really, you should be benched, you should be blessed. You got the strength to be able to continue inspiring so many people that you inspire. Your beautiful words of inspiration, your bris, your lectures, or your tours. It's a great idea. We should do a tour from Olney, place when the pandemic ends, fly again, so on and so forth. But thank you very, very much. Very grateful. And it's actually today, 12th of my Krohn, which is 5/12, which is the
And how could I hear him?
Rosh beat. Sure, by your time, Rosh beat is 5/12. You can make it whatever you want. But I have to get back.
Rabbi Ben Chorin, please move the microphone closer to Rabbi Rappaport.
How does he know that?
So,
How does he know that?
I don't know if you heard what I said,
Rashba.
but we just want to say thank you again, and we're going to continue with Jonathan over here with the guitar. We're going to sing a little bit, L'Kavod, Lag BaOmer, and the yard site of the great Rishon Bar Yochai. Thank you, Rabbi Krohn, so, so much. Great
My pleasure, my honor.
Okay. Sing along. Can they see us?
Matagidu,
One second. We're going to sing another song now. It's a famous song, Tov Lahodas Lashem, Ulezamer Lashimcha Elyon. We have so much to be grateful to Hashem and to sing for Him. We're here, we're alive, we're together, we're apart. But we have Rabbi Ben Chorin, we have Rabbi Mulkaski, we have our community. And thank you for joining. We said Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is Hod Shebahod, which also can mean gratefulness and gratefulness. So let's all sing about our gratitude to Hashem for all the blessing that He has given to us. Here we go. Again, everybody together, I Okay, one last niggin, the hell niggin?
Sure.
All right, everybody, we're gonna sing one more niggin, one more lively niggin together, and then Jonathan has a VOD to go to. So again, thank you, Rabbi Ben Chorin. Thank you to Jonathan Chansky, to Yoav, and to Yonasan here joining. Everyone should have a wonderful evening. A happy Lag BaOmer. Jonathan, thank you to everybody. I believe Rabbi Chorin gave a class last night on 32 and 33. The King David says, Libiu b'sari, Yiranenu el kelchai. My heart and my flesh sing praise to you, God. Libi is Lamed Beis Yom, 32 days, leading up to B'sari. B'sari are the same letters of Rashbi, of Shimon Bar Yochai. After these 33 days of growth, as we get ready for the final Tov, as Rabbi Krohn said, the final 17 days leading up to Shavuos, where we unite in receiving the Torah, each and every one of us. We should be blessed with the opportunities. Leave you sorry with the power of Hashem Bar Yochai, which we just experienced. Be able to sing praise to Hashem. Come together as a community, whether we're physically together or together in any way that we can be, virtually, as Rabbi Krohn said, calling each other, thinking of each other. Whatever we can do, we can all improve. We should all merit, if God willing, be together, singing praise in the Beis HaMikdash, with the Geula Shlema, with Mashiach coming, B'mher B'yameinu. Thank you, Hashem. Thank you, everybody here. Thank you, Jonathan, who just left.